In this video, we will show you how to install your passenger side axle. Let's get started. Safely raise and support the front of the vehicle so the wheel's off the ground. After you've done that, continue on to removing all 5 of your 19mm lug nuts and then the wheel. Let's continue on by removing our 32mm axle nut. Once you have the axle nut out of the way, continue on with a hammer and punch. We'll come right in the center and break the axle free from the wheel bearing. Install one of your lug nuts to hold the rotor in place. Let's continue on by making our way along the backside of the knuckle. You're looking for the caliper. You'll find that you have 2 15mm headed bolts that hold the caliper bracket to the knuckle itself. Let's remove each of those mounting bolts, inspect the pads, and then set the caliper aside. Hang that caliper so it's putting no pressure on your flex hose. Move along to removing your ABS wire from its mounting bracket. Once you've done that, continue on to your 15mm pinch bolt that holds the steering knuckle to your front strut. The next thing we'll do is use a hammer. We're going to tap along the top of the knuckle right here. We're going to try to separate the knuckle from the front strut. Now let's reach in from behind here. We'll grab the axle and carefully pull it out of the backside of our bearing. Now let's follow the axle inboard a little bit. Right behind the oil pan, you're going to find 2 13mm headed mounting nuts that hold this bracket in place. That bracket holds the center carrier bearing in place. Remove and inspect your bracket. With that out of the way, we can continue on by removing the axle from this area. Now, when you do this, pay attention to where the axle goes into your transmission. There's going to be a seal here, and commonly there will be fluid that will come out. Make sure you have a collection bucket under here, and make sure you're safe. We'll come in between the axle and the carrier bearing mount and gently pry this out. Remove your axle. There it is, friends. All right, let's get our axle installed. We're going to bring it up through the passenger side wheel well and slide it into the transmission, being extremely careful for our seal. As we slide this in, you also want to pay attention to the carrier bearing and make sure it slides into the bracket properly. Once you're sure the axle is pressed completely into the transmission, we'll continue on with our bracket piece. Slide it in position, start on both of your 13mm mounting nuts, snug them up, and then torque them to 18 foot-pounds. Now let's prepare the end of the axle. Use some copper never seize on the splines. Slide this into place. We'll press this up and in, and also line up the top of the steering knuckle with your lower part of the strut. Looking at the strut, you can see the line where the knuckle was originally. Let's slide it up into place. Once you have it in place, continue on with your pinch bolt. Now we can bottom this out and then torque it to 74 foot-pounds. Reinstall your brake caliper. Start in each of your mounting bolts and then tighten them to 98 foot-pounds. Resecure your ABS wire. Let's continue on to cleaning the area where our axle seal is and make sure that we remove any of our existing transmission fluid. Now we can remove that lug nut. After you've done that, you can continue on by putting on your axle nut. When you do this, you want to make sure that you tighten it up by hand as much as possible. Never use an air gun because you could potentially damage your bearing. We'll torque that in a minute. Continue on by putting the wheel on. After you have the wheel on there, start on all 5 of your 19mm lug nuts and bottom those out as well. Now we can get the wheel safely back on the ground. We'll torque the axle nut and then all 5 of our lug nuts. With the wheel safely on the ground, torque the axle nut to 207 foot-pounds. Once you've torqued that, continue on to each of your lug nuts. We'll torque these to 100 foot-pounds in a crisscross manner. Torqued. You're going to need to add some transmission fluid. Looking at the top of the dipstick, you can tell exactly what type of fluid to use. Mercon LV. To check the fluid level, you want to make sure you're on a flat, level surface. First, we'll go ahead and pull it out and we'll give it a quick wipe. Once you have it fully removed, pay attention down at the far end. You'll find that you have 2 little dots and in between there's a hatched area. When the fluid is full and warm at normal running temperature, it should be someplace in between the hatched area. If it's too low, you're going to need to add some. If it's too high, you'll have to remove some. To add fluid, you can come right in through the dipstick tube with a funnel using Mercon LV transmission fluid. At this point, take your vehicle for a road test. Make sure you don't hear any funny noises, make sure there's no ABS light, and get yourself safely down to your local alignment shop.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.